dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
And there's a fine line between contentment and complacency, because I strive for contentment.
Yeah.
I think contentment every day is like, when you boil it down, is like every day, at the end of the day, I want to look back and say like I was content today. Because what if today is my last day, right? Like, am I at peace?
We were able to experience the beauty of nature while exploring ourselves.
We are dreamers, we're builders, we're creators, we are explorers and adventurers.
Josh Gershon of Startup Island. We're finally in the booth. This has been a long time coming, but thank you for being here, Josh.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah. We have a long itinerary of things to talk about, but one of the main things, as deep as it is, it's something we talk about on a regular basis, of that being life, love, and death. Going from the get, something extremely deep. What scares you? What scares you?
Nothing like a Sunday morning conversation about life, love, and death.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into Startup Island, your story, but what scares you right now?
So we were just talking about this before. Death does not scare me, in the whole life, love, and death conversation. I'm scared of failure, and I'm scared of success. Equally. Yeah.
That's deep. Why? Because they're both just as able to remove you from your path.
Yeah, I think one thing I have worked through and constantly working through on this, evolution of self and life, and entrepreneurship and business all ties into it, is this idea of like completely unleashing yourself, completely unleashing myself into the world. So something that I've always been terribly fearful of is judgment. And so that's something that I've worked through, but I think like in being fearful of judgment, both from the self and from the outside world, that holds you back, and it can, that fear of judgment can disguise itself in fear of failure. Don't do this, don't go all the way, you might fail, you might fuck up. But really, in a way, it's actually like a fear of success. So the fear of failure and fear of success might almost be actually the same thing, and the fear might rationalize itself in fear of failure, whereas really it's like if you just unleash everything you've got, you can get everything you want.
Yeah, it really does come down to a judgment game. Because I was going to ask you, is it more so internal than external? But I feel like at the end of the day, it does, even if it is from other people, it comes down to the judgment of yourself, because you have to consume that, but then be the determiner of, does it matter to me?
Yeah.
In what ways have you dealt with judgment in your young adolescent ages, and then now how you've evolved and what that's like, and how entrepreneurship has helped in becoming a master over it? Not a master, but climbing that mountain and getting higher and higher to conquering it.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think if ultimately, if you have a complete love and trust and confidence in yourself, and by complete, I mean, is that ever really 100% complete? Who knows? But you know what I mean? If you have that for yourself, then does it really even matter what other people think of you. So I agree. It comes down to, at the end of the day, how do you feel about what's in here and about what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're carrying yourself, how how you show up in the world every day. I feel much better about it now than I used to, of course, but how it used to sort of manifest in young, adolescent, and even like early 20s, Josh. I think I would stop myself from really doing or saying certain things in certain situations because I was scared of the judgment that I would receive. For example, I mean, one thing I've really tapped into, which because we talk about it all the time, is like some of the more like softer quote unquote topics. We talk about, like you said, love, life, and death, right? Love, romance, poetry, art. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Love it. Always have. I also love sports and drinking beer and hanging out with my boys and, doing all of the more like typical, like strong masculine things.
Yeah.
But I think for me growing up, I was scared to also embrace the, again, quote unquote, kind of softer things because I was scared of the judgment that I would receive, from being a romantic, from wanting to be a poet, from wanting to be a writer, from wanting to philosophize and do all those things. So what I've come to learn and through Startup Island, thank God, like I'm our best customer, right? Like Startup Island has put me on this journey of self-discovery and self-actualization. And it's helped me become more confident in embracing all the pieces of me. So through that, now, I've leaned into it, and what I found is I've become a much more complete version of myself, a much more fuller version of myself. And now even though I sit here and tell you, like, I am still scared of judgment, there's much less that I'm scared to say, and I'm much more proud of, just kind of putting everything out there. And if you don't vibe with it, or you don't like it, or you judge it, that's your journey.
Yeah. So I know the origin story of Startup Island, which we can get into, but was it also out of a question of curiosity? Did you start it because you wanted to be the best customer, or did that just come about through creating these experiences for young entrepreneurial-minded people?
Good question. I think there's like the cover letter version of the story.
Yeah.
Which I think, on most of these entrepreneurship podcasts you'll find. And so like the quick kind of cover letter version, which you probably even know already, is like worked for a student founded business in college, got a taste of entrepreneurship, got a taste of what it's like to, kind of like learn by doing and pivot by failing and iterate and, all the buzzwords that everyone uses. The deeper story and deeper manifestation of Startup Island comes from me not necessarily wanting to start Startup Island. I didn't know what Startup Island was or would be before that actually existed in my head, but it came from a deep unfulfillment, and it came from, a deep dissatisfaction with parts of myself that I wasn't embracing yet. And therefore, like, I felt hindered. I kind of felt like I was living in this world where I wasn't tapping into everything that I knew could be tapped into, both internally and externally. And so when I started to push myself to self-discover, and I think when you do that, you start to discover things outside of you as well.
Definitely.
So when I got a taste of this self-discovery journey, what I started finding were people who are walking the same path, are asking similar questions, want to solve similar problems, want and need a platform to fully be themselves without judgment, and in a place that's encouraging of their ideas, their crazy dreams, one thing I think about a lot, and we've talked about this on our transforming education calls. Actions speak louder than words, right? Mm-hmm. And what you hear in traditional education and often in your home when you're growing up are things like, anything you want, anything you dream of, you can do it. You hear these words. But then you're often not embraced and supported and put into a society or, within the systems that we often like live and operate. Those systems don't actually necessarily support those words of you can do anything that you dream of.
Yeah.
And so I was very conflicted because I had these huge dreams, but I didn't feel like I was living in a system where those dreams were okay.
So you created that system for other people.
Over time we did. Yeah.
And I realized as much as you're helping young people reach that fulfillment, discover more about themselves, build successful businesses, and just develop amazing things, they're helping you just as much. And that's an amazing thing. And it's just the problem solution to what you guys have started is like playing itself out. And going back to the parenting thing, the reason that the environment isn't the way it should is it comes down to the judgment, like deeper insecurities of the parents. And I think kids have to realize that. And if kids can realize that, they can develop more empathy to navigate those scenarios. Yeah. And can you talk about Startup Island, and not just the origin story, but for people who are scared to start stuff and that fear of judgment you talked about, that fear of failure, and how to go about comprehending that, but then taking action on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for saying that. And I think that the actual act of starting, for me at least, that was the easy part. Putting together a website and starting to email student leaders and hopping on the phone and seeing what was what and seeing, if there were people out there in the entrepreneurship space and in the student entrepreneurship space specifically, which is where we started, that were interested in being a part of this curated experience that, brings entrepreneurial-minded students together to self-discover, but also, work on their ideas and support each other and find mentors and resources and exchange these things through some sort of travel experience. That was the easy part. Like once we obviously got started and realized, okay, there's something here, now we have to build a business. That's incredibly challenging and still is. And it should be, that's building a business is really hard. So
100%.
I want to say that.
Yeah.
But for me, the act of just here's this idea, let's see if it works because we believe in it. We think it's kind of cool. We think it can have an impact. Let's put it out in the universe. That was...
You don't have it all figured out.
Never will.
Never should.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Mastery, right? I don't think mastery is a thing where you hit the ceiling. Okay, now I'm a complete master. I can never learn. I cannot do anything else. I'm perfect. I don't think that exists. And I don't think it should. I think, Kobe or MJ or LeBron, masters of their craft, Tiger Woods, right? They still practice because they always have getting better to do.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing, the way that this equation of life is set up is that's why the pain, and even though it's most likely self-inflicted, the adversity that comes, the external factors that causes the non-complacency, and it causes you to triumph over it if you're willing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you can think about life and death, but death can usually come in the form of stagnancy or complacency, which is the even worse thing. Have you ever experienced that?
Complacency?
Yeah.
One of my mentors, in fact, the student-founded business that I worked for in college, the founder of that company, he had a blog called The Fear of Complacency. Ooh. And that was the first time I heard the word complacency. I actually didn't know that word until getting to college and hearing that he had a blog called that, I said, oh, what's that? And so I've always thought of complacency in those eyes of like the fear of complacency. So I've always had the kind of mentality of like, not fearful in a bad way, but like I'm always striving against being complacent. I never want to get stagnant. I never want to settle. I want to, and there's a fine line between contentment and complacency, because I strive for contentment.
Yeah.
I think contentment every day is like, when you boil it down, is like every day at the end of the day, I want to look back and say like, I was content today. Because what if today is my last day, right? Like, am I at peace today? Yeah. So contentment, wonderful. I strive for it. And semantically, I know some people who hate the word contentment because in their mind, it means complacency.
Exactly.
For me, it's that feeling of being at peace, whereas complacency is settling for less than great and allowing yourself to kind of flatline.
And that goes back to just a deep sense of self-awareness to know what that line is and what works best for you. Which
you can feel it. You can feel if you're starting to, if you're not challenging yourself anymore, it feels uninspiring, you know?
Yeah, people will know. But they'll give themselves slack, or the other way around. They'll go too hard, thinking they'll be complacent if they don't do enough. But that's just the fear of failure, the fear of actual failure. Can you go back to the MJ and Kobe and LeBron and Tiger, all the greats? What else sticks out to you about them that helps you navigate entrepreneurship? So you talked about the process, like the ever-evolving learning, curiosity. What other things stick out to you as they're your mentors in a way?
Yeah, I love that question. I think something that sticks out to me about those guys that people don't, maybe people don't often think about or realize, is how painful the hard work can be. Like 4 a.m., Kobe's in the gym. That sucks. You know, and obviously Kobe got to a point where he loves being in the gym when nobody else is there, because it gives him that mental edge. He knows that he's the only guy there. But the reason that the greats are the ones doing it is because it's hard and it sucks and no one else wants to do it because everyone else would rather still be sleeping.
Yeah.
So I think about that because in a world where tools like social media, this is not a crusade against social media. There's a lot of good that social media can do as well. But from a standpoint of social media showing you pretty pictures, you know, you see LeBron in the gym working out and you're like, oh, LeBron's so cool. That's awesome, right? But like that blood, sweat, and tears that the image captures so beautifully, you can't feel the pain that LeBron probably feels.
Yeah.
Like getting in the gym and busting your ass every single day, working harder and harder to outlift, outrun, you know, outperform your yesterday self, along with all of the other top 1% of athletes in your sport, is hard.
Yeah.
You feel physical pain from that. You make physical sacrifices from that. I listened to a podcast with Kobe a few months ago, and it was, I think, recorded years previously. But he was talking about now that he's retired, how happy he is that he can spend time with his family. Think about that. How painful must it have been for 20 years of your life, you know, to miss your daughter's dance recitals, graduations, parent-teacher conferences? That sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
Straight up is not like there is pain associated with being great. So when I think about those guys, that's what I think about.
Yeah, the one thing that just entered my mind is like being okay if you don't want to be in that position.
What do you mean?
Because it requires a lot of talent. Like talent is not talked about enough to be, just for say basketball, to be the 0.001% at that level, and then to work harder to be better than that 0.001%. But some people, one, don't have the talent or have other sacrifices they want to make. In a way, they can sacrifice not working hard in their career to be the best parent possible, or the other side of things, and being okay with that. You know what I mean? Because people think of just the Kobe side of it, which is like everything with entrepreneurship we think about, because it's really, really hard and it's extremely difficult. But what about the other side as well? You know what I mean?
What about the people who don't want to be Kobe, don't want to be Gary Vee, don't want to be whoever? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and Gary Vee talks about that too. You know how he talks about, man, I can't believe I'm referencing Gary Vee so much. This is a weird new change in my life. But he talks about, like, you know, he tries to understand all of his employees, what makes them really tick, because he's like, I can't expect anyone to work as hard as me. And I think what happens is, like, you know, you go on social media and you see, you know, Kobe, or you see Gary, or you see any of these people, and it looks cool. You're like, I want to do that.
But do you really want to do that?
Exactly. And most people probably don't. You know, I think most people want whatever word you want to call it, happiness, contentment, love, peace, joy, fulfillment. I think that's what everybody wants. And even that is an unfair thing to say, that everybody wants that. But I think, like, the human condition is, like, you know, seeking love and belonging and a sense of having your cup be filled, whatever that means. But understanding that your cup being filled does not look the same as guys that work 100-hour weeks and miss a lot of their family functions.
It's just the fact that they're put in the limelight when it does happen. And for a reason. I mean, they're deserving because they're willing to go through the mud. I always think about Shawshank Redemption and the crawling through the sewer with the 500 yards of mud, and then he ends up in the clean pond when the rain falling on him, all washed away. Yeah.
Andy Dufresne.
Yeah, great movie.
It's a dope movie. Yeah.
What was the decision where it was for you that you decided to go into this sewer of entrepreneurship and take on that bout to go face to face with it? Because you did go through, like, the experiences and the internships, but that wasn't really entrepreneurship as much, right? Like, what was the click for you?
I think luckily for me, I didn't realize I was going to crawl through a sewer. And then...
Do you think if you knew, you wouldn't have?
That's
interesting.
Very well possible that, having known this is going to take way more energy, way more effort, way more capital, way more personal sacrifice than I could have ever imagined, I might have said, no, that's not for me. So thank God I didn't know that, because I fell in love with the struggle of it. For me, I associate entrepreneurship with personal development so much, because I do think that entrepreneurship is, like, one of the most mentally, spiritually, and emotionally rigorous things that you could ever put yourself through.
I think about it like running a race.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's like psychological warfare that you're putting yourself through, like, completely, you know, volunteering to put yourself through the ringer. So when I got there and I realized, like, yo, this is tough, it forced me to look at so many things in my life and trace back things to my childhood and dig into my relationships with my parents and dig into romantic relationships. Like, it just makes you look at yourself fully in the mirror and be like, if I don't work through you, the business is never going to work. And luckily now I'm at the point where, like, I actually care about this thing. I want to build this and I want to bring this to the world. So I better get all this shit right.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
it starts with improving yourself.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
So for me, thank God, like, I was a little blind in realizing how much of a struggle it would be. And thank God for falling in love with the struggle, because the struggle has helped me evolve tremendously. Yeah.
Who would have, also going back, you didn't think you were going to say Gary Vee much, but who would have thought you would say the struggling is the greatest part? When you were younger, you probably would have never said that. But now that's you mimicking that of, like, obviously not the highest caliber of, like, the Kobe, MJ, LeBron, but the fact that you're mimicking the falling in love with the process and the struggle of it. Can you talk about practically, for people who really want to know, the long-term aspect of it and creating long-term impact? Because you guys are doing that, but what has gone through your mind in thinking about that topic, but also giving advice to people who are starting their own thing, and how much that brand is important, the long-term impact? Yeah.
Yeah. So for context, what Startup Island is a platform for young people and really of all ages. We have now programs that are evolving into, custom experiences for teams, organizations. We've done custom experiences for mothers. So young people, maybe not. But we create experiences for people at the intersection of entrepreneurial leadership, self-development, personal and professional growth acceleration. So our core program is an alternative spring break for college students. We have a core program for young professionals. We have summer camp. We have a New Year's program. But everything we do, whether it's in providing an experience on site, like some sort of retreat, or local workshops or events, or even in the content we create, our mission is to help accelerate the personal and professional growth of people on the planet, to help them find fulfillment, to help them find their Kobe or their MJ, right? Whatever it is, that thing that gets you really fired up. We want to solve this kind of fulfillment crisis that I believe that we're kind of experiencing today in society. And so when you talk about long-term impact, the long-term impact that we strive to create is a next generation, or just straight up a world that we can live in where people are fulfilled, where people are confident, aware, strong enough in their own conviction and who they are, that they have the strength to get up every day and go do what they're meant to do. That can be professionally, but it also could be, like you said, as a parent, as a friend. We want people to feel a certain kind of way about themselves so that they can make this world a better place, whatever that looks like for them. For a lot of our Startup Island travelers, because we spend a lot of time talking about entrepreneurial leadership. And so for a lot of our participants, that manifests in entrepreneurship, actually creating some sort of business or impact project. So our job is to create a platform where people can put those ideas into the world, find other people to support them in their journey, in their dreams, maybe partner up with them and take on similar missions, and hopefully, and definitely, because we've already seen it, do some really amazing things, from whether it's starting a huge impact-driven business to starting something small in your community to becoming the best version of yourself and becoming a great partner, a great
supporting
parent.
them through that.
Supporting them through that.
And for you guys are doing that for a company in a different sector or someone focusing on something different. Can you give a bullet list of items to achieve long-term growth, or for you guys who are all about community, how you retain and give value to the people in that community? Because that's the most important part at the end of the day. If you're selling a product, have people keep coming. If you have a service brand, that you need to have people stick around for a while, or have them tune in for everything you're doing. What are some bullet listed things that you have come up with through your experience and progress with Startup Island that you can give to others?
So just some
real practical things.
To
some pillars.
Long-term growth and impact.
Yeah.
Community is obviously very, very important. Community in your team, your customers, your stakeholders, your network. And community is a word that gets thrown around a ton today. I think you can attest to the fact that the Startup Island community actually feels like
it's authentic. It's connected.
An ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's an authentic place where people can present themselves in their fullest with each other and just show support, love, offer resources, offer knowledge, exchange deep conversations and wisdom and support. So if you can create that is a huge asset to whatever it is that you're doing. Any product, service, what have you, that you're creating, having a community or having people that you serve that truly care is of the utmost importance.
Yeah.
You do that with authenticity. You do it with vulnerability. You do it with not claiming to be an expert if you're not. You do that by creating a place where people feel comfortable.
The vulnerability is a big part in the transparency, because you don't leave anything on the table to be discovered, and it's just all out there. All the cards are there, and you can feel it. Like, you go back to what we talked about in the beginning. You can feel when it's not right, and people will notice when it's not. And that's why Startup Island has grown so organically, because people know it's real, and they're seeking and longing for that. Yeah.
Your feelings, your intuitions don't lie. So like, you can feel when a conversation is authentic. You can feel when an interaction is authentic. You can feel when a transaction is authentic. So yeah, just like you said, being able to lead with that vulnerability. And so of course, this question, the bullet points sort of depend on what exactly are you trying to create. That will vary across industry, across product, what have you. When you look at Startup Island, we create experiences, right? We create travel experiences. So everything that we do is very people driven. And so for us to lead with vulnerability, it's to make sure that on our trips, either ourselves or our facilitators are creating an atmosphere, a physical space where people feel comfortable to share, and where there's no hierarchy, and where everybody is a student and everybody is a teacher, because we all come from different walks of life and we can all gain immensely from each other.
Yeah. The biggest thing when you talk about vulnerability is the ability to detach from the expectation and the outcome. And I think that's the first switch that comes to mind when people think about, I want to give this up. It's like, what if this happens to me? How have you gone about swimming those waters? Because it's just especially for the men, it's a very masculine thing. We can get into modern masculinity.
Sure.
But since you've done it, Brian has done it, you guys have created that through the business. Man, it's difficult. But to leave the ego aside, how have you gone about developing that in yourself?
It's always a journey. And
process.
Yoga and meditation helps a lot, which I know obviously.
I would love to talk about the practices you have to enhance that. Yeah.
So one thing you just said, I don't think it's about ego removal. I think it's about like ego relationship. I think the ego, we cannot remove the ego. The ego shows up in ourselves in different ways, in different pieces of ourselves. So I think, like, again, learning how to love every piece of yourself, work with every piece of yourself. So even when the ego becomes like, a little bit maniacal or kind of a dick, like, working with that piece of yourself at that certain point and say, like, okay, where is this coming from? Why am I doing this? Like, what is my motive here? And you can catch yourself, like, sometimes, like, trying to be a little sneaky or trying to, like, whatever your ego does to protect you. Because that's also, again, like, I don't think that's something that you're always trying to, like, the piece of you, the intuition that tries to protect you is obviously doing it out of love and out of safety and out of security. It's like your parents. They're not always right, but they're looking out for you.
Yeah.
So you don't want to, like, removing your ego would be like removing
point.
your parents. Sometimes you have to know how to put a boundary up between them and say, like, okay, I get where you're coming from. You love me. You want the best for me. But, like, I'm going to draw the line here and you're not going to penetrate it. And it's the same thing.
Dude, that's a great point. I never thought about it that way.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your ego is like a parent. Yeah. And then we can really delve into parenting and how you guys are transforming education, how parenting so relates to the education of a young child, the schooling they go through.
How much time you got?
How does the balancing of listening to the parent, I mean, it just blew up my mind. I just keep thinking about the ego now when I think about, like, the parent. The balancing listening to the parent, but also doing what's best for you, and knowing if the mom and dad do what's best for you or know you as much as you know yourself. Yeah, that's such a hard thing to grapple.
I think it makes what makes it hard for people to know themselves, and not to know themselves, but to get back to knowing themselves, because, you know, we're born with it. Like we're born in our essence and in our purest selves. Where I think we lose it and it gets cloudy is because, I don't want to say because of our parents, but because of other voices, right? So again, it's
it's the turtle going out into the sea, like eventually venturing away from the mom or the parental figure.
Well, I think that's very important.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think almost like as soon as possible.
Yeah, and you think the sooner the better? Or it depends.
It's different for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like
exactly.
Everything I say on parenting, and I will make this disclaimer, everything I say on parenting comes from my lens of my relationship with my parents.
And I think I talked about this before. It's very undervalued to knowing the history of your family and knowing where you came from, why people act certain ways, and developing that transparent communication with your parents to understand when they say something to you, you know if it's coming from a place of deep insecurity on their end or they're really looking out for you. So I think it's just having that tough conversation up front. And the sooner you do it, the better.
You said something on our last Transforming Education call, which was very, very important, very profound. You said, are your goals for me, you know, me being the student, the same as my goals for me? And so I'm also not a parent, right? So very easy to sit here and talk about how I'm going to be like an all-star dad, which I think I'm going to be a great dad one day. But
by mastering yourself.
Yeah. So I can like sit here on this like high horse and say like, here's the way I'm going to parent my kids. But what I would like to think is that I will create a home in which that they can live in, that they can self-discover. Like what does happiness look like for you? What does success feel like for you? What does fulfillment look like for you? Because then I could support that instead of projecting what my definition of it is. So that you're all like, so that then you kind of validate yourself through what I think is successful. And that's, you know, like kind of what I was saying. I think that's where kids in the education space, that's where we lose ourselves, is because we get caught up in what the definitions of success we hear. Yeah. Instead of going back to what it actually means for me.
Yeah, and going back to it, it's like having that free roaming, but also being a fence as well for certain areas, which I really want to delve back into it, just like the self-awareness aspect. Mm-hmm. And what practices, if you want to talk about what practices you are a practitioner of to develop more self-awareness for yourself.
Meditation, yoga, more meditation for me. So I like
finding what's best for you, which requires self-awareness.
Great phases of yoga for like weeks or months at a time, and then I fall out of it. But I meditate almost every day pretty consistently for at least 10 minutes, whether it's through like Headspace. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes I use Insight Timer. Sometimes I use YouTube. Sometimes I just, kind of sit in quiet. I love to run. I love to play basketball, though I haven't done it enough in the last few months. Writing on a recent poetry kick. So like reading and writing of poetry has become a new art form that I really enjoy. Conversations like this. For me, definitely. Like there is a spiritual and emotional component to this, which is like very energetic and leaves me like fills me up, definitely. So those are the main, I think those are the main things.
Yeah. And in taking all of the practices, continuing to do them, knowing yourself and building yourself and thus the business, what are the long-term trajectory? Because we talked about long-term before, but the actual end goals, even though if you achieve it, you'll still want to do more. And if you don't, you'll still want to do more. So what's that thing that'll help you reach higher, even though it's an constant process, a never-ending process?
So do you mean a specific goal that I'm striving for?
Like a extremely long-term big thing you want to achieve, whether it be personal or professional or both?
Always both.
Always both. They're intertwined. Yeah.
Yeah.
We always talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And some are separate, obviously. Like one day I would love to learn how to play the guitar, like really learn how to play the guitar and the ukulele. Practicing Spanish. So one day I would love to be fluent in Spanish, which that does intertwine for the business because we travel to Latin America a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, I look at, we always get this question, like, what's your 5-year goal for the business? My truth right now, this morning, I don't know. Like, I don't know what it looks like. I know that the thought of, okay, if we're here today, where we're going to be in 5 years is going to be awesome. I know I feel that. So, like, my goal is to keep getting better every day as an individual, as a leader, as a business person, so that we can get to that feeling. Like I'm striving for that feeling, but I don't know. I can't.
You're striving to who you want to become, though. It's not a what you want to achieve, which I've been learning massively from all these amazing, successful people. Mm-hmm. It's who do you want to become, the person you want to look at and say, all right, he's really transformed himself since 5 years ago. 10 years ago, yeah.
So I told you, I read back my journal over the last year.
I love that you do that.
Every entry. And first time really in my life when I read it the other day, looking back at the year, I was so fucking proud. I was so proud of myself. And it's weird to say that because, again, like, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of, like, being seen as arrogant, you know? So I used to, like, not be comfortable with being proud of myself. I was like, yo, you grew so much.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think if I stay on this path, me and the business in 5 years, I'm just excited for that. I don't know the number of employees we have. I don't know the number in revenue that we're bringing in. I don't know how many trips we've created. I don't know how our program has changed because there's so many possibilities and all that excites me. So I just want to stay.
And the only thing that you can really control is this. It's like from the center out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have all these different trajectories and visions and stuff. At the end of the day, it might not go where you want, but it's like this thing you can. It's like the stake hold in the ground. It's the one thing that's permanent.
Yeah, that essence.
Yeah.
That essence. It's like tapping deeper and deeper into that. So, yeah, my 5-year goal is like I'm still alive, I'm still healthy, and I'm even more excited about the work that we're doing now. I'm even more excited then.
Yeah.
It's going to be dope.
Yeah. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I can't wait. What about you? Can I ask you the same question?
Oh, I never got a question my way. I fall in line right behind you with that same thing. As much as this vision of creating this platform as a media company for people to go to for curated advice, amazing stories, inspiring messages, to see myself evolve in the last 2 years has been so cool. And just as someone who loves consuming books and information and helping others and having conversations with people, and it's more so like helping myself. And from the interviews to the, like I said, the books I consume to the things I watch, it's at the end of the day to discover more about myself. And I always go back to, I've been saying this a lot, purpose is present, being present. So I've just been trying to staple that into my head, that as much as there is a long-term goal, we have visions and desires. My true purpose is being present through everything, whether I want to do it, whether I need to do it, because it's part of the sacrifice I have to go through, just being present through everything and doing it well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I want to acknowledge you because, like, I know you're usually on the interviewer side of this, but, like, having watched you grow over the last 2 years, I'm glad that you also are aware of it because it's been truly inspiring to see. Like, however many years I have on you, like, I look at you as a role model very much. And the stuff you guys are doing right now, the content that you're creating, the sheer quality of like your production and the message and everything has just evolved so immensely, like night and day from when you started, and you're just getting started.
Yeah.
And it's super fucking awesome. And so like,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And not in like a infatuated statement way, but you being on the higher end and seeing what you've gone through, what others have gone through, is just a trickle down effect to help me. It's like all of your failures help expedite this process of building what I'm building and what we're building, what the team is a part of. So it goes both ways. But I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's why we do it, right?
That's
we
why we
talked
do
about
it.
this yesterday.
Yeah.
Like when we win, everybody wins. You know, create
Yes.
this like win-win.
Yes. Can you talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Please. Because that's another, you've been blowing my mind all weekend. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah. So what was the question?
So we talked about when the example was if you're a waiter and
the game of life.
the game of life and how you want to win, but also balancing being true to your values.
Okay. Yeah. So as a waiter, like trying to get the best tips or whatever, like how do you play the game?
And it was like, how do you play that game?
Okay. Yes. Okay. So in that analogy, right, the winning the game for the waiter might be like, what do I have to do in this situation to like work this table so that they tip me the best?
It's like a thing I need to do. Yeah. It seems like a burden.
But if it comes from a holistic place of if I win, then you win, it's not what do I need to do to work this table so that they give me the best tip. It's what kind of experience do I create for these people so that they have the best dining experience that they've ever had. And then in return, of course, I will be compensated for my efforts in treating them well, you know? So it's the same thing.
But it goes back to what we were just talking about. Yeah. It's like, who do you want to become? Like serving the best you can possibly serve instead of like that thing you want, which is the tip and the compensation.
Yeah, the only thing that's different is your mindset and your approach to
Dots
it.
are connected.
Like it's the peaceful warrior, because tangibly you're doing you're doing the same thing. You are working your hardest. You're making sure their food's out on time. You're making jokes, you're smiling, you're playing with the people at the table to make sure that you get the best tip. The only thing that's different is the mindset. It's from a place of, oh, I'm going to get one up on these people versus I'm going to make sure these people feel my love and have the best experience that they could possibly have.
Yeah, but that
results the same.
That correlates directly into how you behave.
It's rooted more in authenticity.
Yes, exactly.
If you approach it from I win, we win. And then if you approach that to life, you know, if like that is how you look at your neighbors, your customers, your coworkers, your leaders, the people in your community, the people that are struggling, you know, if it becomes this I win when you win kind of thing, I think it'll make the world a better place.
I like how you said I win when you win, not I win if you win. I win when you win. Bang. The world wins when we win.
Mm-hmm.
Let's improve ourselves. Yeah. Is there any last departing thoughts, anything on your mind right now, anything you're reflecting on as of the last couple months that you would like to unleash through this mic to others listening as a departing statement?
I mean, I could ramble all day, man. One thing I was thinking about this morning in the shower, actually, and one thing that like I am practicing more and more is, and I said it earlier, but like actions speak louder than words. Like your actions really are what matter, you know? And so I think we live today in a world where people say a lot. And there's a lot of like polarizing opinions, and there's a lot of like good versus bad and black versus white. And, you know, I mean, someone just yesterday or the other day, like I forgot who, one of my friends said to me like, oh man, like we live in a fucked up world, or like something like that.
I don't like that.
Yeah. And like, just like, don't believe that, you know?
Don't believe that.
Like there is so much good, and yes, also so much like struggle and suffering, and that's kind of the way the world has always been. But if we say things like the world is such a fucked up place, and then we like go out and believe that and put that into the world, like amplifies that kind of energy. You know, if we say things like anything you want, anything you dream, you can accomplish. Great, but also embody that, right? Like,
Yeah.
carry that, you know, and pass that to other people, not just in the words, but in how you care for people. So I don't really know what I'm trying to say with all that, but I guess just like be very intentional with the words that you use and then the energy behind it. I think we all have this superpower to like actually bring things into existence through way more than just word, through action.
Intention and action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both ends. Intention, beginning, and action. Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Other than
Beautiful.
that, I just, I love talking to you. I hope this comes out great. I hope we get to do it again.
Let's start putting it to action. Everything. Yeah. Thank you again for being here. It's awesome, man. I appreciate you more than beyond words and measure, as always.
Thank you. Right back at you, bro.